we just covered the story about how 32% of the country is late on their payment for July to pay their rent or their mortgage. 32%. And the expanded unemployment runs out at the end of this month. So when that runs out, we literally could have over 50% of the country being unable to afford the roof they have over their head. Keep that in mind as I tell you this next story. There's a new report about wealthy tax cheats, and this will show you who the real criminals are in our country. Common Dreams reports the following. A Congressional Budget Office report commissioned by Senator Bernie Sanders and published Wednesday found the amount of unpaid taxes from 2011 to 2013 averaged around $381 billion per year, a revenue shortfall the Vermont senator called an absolute outrage that is largely the result of big corporations and wealthy tax cheats dodging their obligations. The richest 1% is responsible for 70% of all unpaid taxes, Sanders said in a statement late Wednesday, pointing to a separate study of the so-called tax gap published last November. The CBO analysis out Wednesday found that massive Internal Revenue Service budget cuts and staff reductions over the past decade have resulted in a sharp decline in examination and enforcement of tax underpayment and avoidance. Quote, enforcement activity for many high-income non-filers has been reduced to a series of notices, the report says. The CBO's findings bolster reporting by ProPublica last year that found the IRS, quote, now audits poor Americans at about the same rate as the top 1%, due in part to the high costs of examining the tax returns of the rich. So they go on to say, quote, the IRS examination rate for the largest corporations, those with $20 billion or more in assets, dropped by about half from 2010 to 2018. The wealthiest taxpayers with more than $1 million in income saw their audit rate cut by 63% during the same time. In other words, there's a clear shift away from the government looking into corporations dodging taxes and the wealthy dodging taxes. And now more and more, they're shifting towards, let's shake down poor people who don't have that much anyway. Now, why would such a thing happen? You already know. Because corporations effectively run the government. They bought the government. They own the government. And so all they have to do is say the word. All they have to do is hint a little bit. And the government's like, okay, we got it. We know. We got you. We know what we're going to do. We'll continue to shake down the poor in this country, and you guys can keep jamming money into the Cayman Islands or whatever other tax havens you're using, which is just a fancy word for tax avoidance, cheating on your taxes. And the numbers are clear. There's a clear trend in that direction. Let's let them get away with doing whatever the hell they want and not paying their taxes, and let's crack down extra hard on regular people. So here's what Bernie said about this. And this is true, by the way. So keep this in mind. We could fund tuition-free college for all, eliminate child hunger, ensure clean drinking water for every American household, build 500,000 affordable housing units, provide masks to all with that money. We're talking about $381 billion per year in wealthy tax dodging per year. With that money, let me repeat it, we could fund tuition-free college, that's only about $60 billion, eliminate child hunger, ensure clean drinking water for every American household, build 500,000 affordable housing units as we have a housing crisis that's about to hit, and we're actually in already, and we could provide masks to all with that money. Do you see how broken the system is? And the media's job is to gaslight you about all this too, by the way. Because every time there's a suggestion to help the people, you have a parade of idiots saying what? Say it with me now. How you gonna pay for it? 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 They say that every time. Free college? How you going to pay for it? Medicare for all? How you going to pay for it? UBI? How you going to pay for it? They've never once said that about wars. They've never once said that about wealthy tax dodgers. Hey, you guys are cheating the system out of $381 billion a year. How are we going to afford it if the rich people aren't sufficiently patriotic in paying their taxes? I guess they hate America. These arguments are never flipped on them. You say people hate America when they do stuff like criticize wars. I would argue that's not hating America at all. That's loving America and trying to fix it. But if rich people and corporations dodge $381 billion per year in taxes, they somehow love America? No, that seems to me like they hate it, and they're greedy bastards, and they want to get every single red cent out of this country. Nobody ever says, how are we going to afford for them to keep dodging taxes? We could use that money for all these important things. Nobody ever says that. Nobody ever says, how are we going to, how do we afford these wars? Oh my God, you want to keep bombing? I don't know how we can afford that. It's only when it's stuff for you. That's the media's job. The media's job is to gaslight you and protect the status quo. The system is so broken, it's overwhelming, man. It really is. And I keep saying it, but the answers are so simple. But they don't do them. They don't even talk about them because they're incentivized to do the opposite. The government and the media are beholden to the wealthy and corporations. That's it. That's the gist of it. That's how we got to this place. At the same time that we're going to be maybe 50% of Americans or more can't afford the roof over their head. We're talking about every year $381 billion in tax avoidance from corporations. And by the way, the cherry on top is they're now pretending to go full woke. Siding with protesters. Oh yeah, totally. We're all about racial justice, bro. We're all about racial justice, bro. Yeah. Unless it's your Cambodian child workers. Not racial justice for them. Only racial justice to virtue signal while here as you keep dodging your taxes and paying your workers crap. The system is going to collapse under the weight of its own hypocrisy.